Hello and welcome to the How to Exit podcast. Today I'm here with Bruce R. Marks, M&A lender and helping buyers and search funders get to the closing table. Man, thank you, Bruce, for being here today. I want to appreciate you sticking with me. We had a little bit of technical difficulty starting out, but I think we're going to make this work.
Yeah, Ron, it's great to be here. I greatly appreciate the opportunity.
Well, I always seem to start like at the origin story. I want people to kind of get to know who you are. So the ongoing joke is I always say, well, you were born. Now you ended up on a show about buying and selling businesses. Could you fill in the gap in between?
Yeah, that'd be great. So, yeah, I started my lending career a long time ago. I started out originally in commercial lending, and while I was in commercial lending, um, I did all kinds of the processes: real estate lending. I did underwriting. I did closing. You go through a formal credit training program, and became a commercial lender, and then I got an opportunity to get into SBA lending. And it was interesting because when I first got into SBA lending, this goes way back into the early 80s, SBA was, stood for small bad assets, so to speak, right? I mean, people did not want to do SBA lending. It was a process. We had three-part parchment paper almost, Ron. I mean, it was way back then. The application process was, putting it on a typewriter. You'd send things into the SBA. It got kicked back. It was just a really different process than it is today. But through that whole experience, and I also became a business owner for 13 years. So I've been on that side of the table. But about 8 years ago, I shifted focus. I was working at an institution, and a searcher who had graduated Harvard had called me up and said, I'm buying a business and I'm looking for a search fund loan. And I really did not know what that was, to be truthful with you. I had been doing, SBA and M&A lower middle market transactions, but I really was never familiar with the concept of, search fund lending or, acquisition by helping people who put in a small equity check, go out, get different investors, and then, along with the seller ticket piece and buy a business. It's getting to the skill sets of the people. If you're an IT guy and that's what you've done in your career, and you come to me and you say, listen, I have found two pizzerias that I think are great and I want to run them, that's going to be a really tough sell, right? Because you don't have any skill set. Everybody likes to eat. Everyone likes to go to a restaurant, but that doesn't mean you know how to operate a restaurant, right? So, I joke about that and I laugh about it. But in reality, that's how granular I get with a lot of my clients, because the reality is that you are going to own, operate, run, and also control the people that you work with. You're going to have to pay back the bank. You're going to have to pay back the seller. You're going to have to pay the landlord. You've got to pay your vendors. There's a lot of going on, and there's a lot dependent on that business. And I want to make sure when we find the right one, and I always talk about that, and it's a common saying for me, that it is, in fact, the right one. And I'm going to tell you what you're going to do, and it's going to work out great. I said, here's what you're going to do. When the seller and you are a week before closing, the seller's going to call his folks in, and he's going to have his regular staff meeting like he does. And he's going to, on a screen, pop up your resume, not your picture. He's going to pop up your resume, and it's going to say, this is who I am. I'm a Harvard MBA graduate. I've owned a business before. I've owned this business before. This is my experience. Not only just that, but the second slide is going to be, what's my vision for the company? Where do I see you in this role? Right? What do I expect? What am I looking for? How are we going to grow this business together? And they're going to get a flavor of you, who you are, and what you bring to the table without ever seeing a picture of you. Because then this way, in their mind, they're already going to know, wow, we're fortunate that this is the guy that bought the business. and going to take us to the next level. Right.
And, I always goof around and tell these guys, these search funders and stuff, "You are who Google says you are." So
Yeah, yeah, reputation is earned, right? I
yeah,
mean, and to that point, I look at where I am today in my life cycle, and we all hope to get to that point where we're all, have financial stability, right? That's the ultimate goal, and we can do the things that we want to do, and we can look in the mirror and say that we've grown a business or we've built a business and we've been successful, right? That's the bet. And I think at this point in time, when I look at it and I say to myself, the opportunities of the past 7 or 8 years, now that I am an expert in this space and what it's allowed me to do, and not so much for me, but for the people that I work with, right? Because you and I talked, it's different when you get up in the morning and you don't have to go to work versus having to go to work.
pretty much any unmet need is an opportunity for an entrepreneur to help out, and, I hate some people, you know, demonize the word capitalize, but to capitalize on an opportunity is just means that you're able to feed yourself and feed employees and to make something, you know, work. So,
And it
when you
wasn't even something that she thought of, right? It was like somebody approaching her. When I mentioned that I owned my own business for 13 years, and it was
mm,
somebody, I was working in the banking industry, and somebody had made a comment to me, these people really could use some consulting help, Bruce. I can't provide it to them. Do you know anybody who can? And I said, well, you know, what can I do for them? And or who can I? It's interesting because if you want to know what people think about you or what they say about you if they're referring you, all you need to do is ask. And I do it all the time. Like I'll say to people, if you're going to refer me, what is it that you say about me? Because if I want a certain message delivered and they don't know, then how can they deliver it? Right?
right,
Right? So I ended up helping this person. They referred me to somebody else. And just like the woman with the dog walking business, boom, all of a sudden, I don't have time to go to work anymore because I'm too busy doing consulting work for everybody else. Fast forward 13 years later, I got a great opportunity to kind of like a perfect storm, won't get into it, but I got a great opportunity to jump back into the banking business. And what I realized was, as an entrepreneur, at least for me, I had built a very good me business. And what I also realized in doing what it is that I do is that you're not going to be able to sell and capitalize on a me business. And so I looked at it and I said, I've got a very nice business and I do well, but it's nothing that I can scale and it's nothing that I can grow because it's me. It's what's in between the 2 years.